Hi, welcome back, Cloud Scholars, and a special welcome to those this is your first time visiting the page. My name is Kieran Tross, and I'm here with another how-to video for you. In this video, we're going to talk about how to protect data in Microsoft Teams using Microsoft Endpoint Manager Admin Center. Now, one thing I want to point out is, even though that we're centered this around Microsoft Teams, you can utilize the same skill set that I'm providing you with any application within your organization. So the first thing we're going to do is we're logged into the Microsoft Endpoint Manager Admin Center. And what we're going to do is we're going to come down here to Apps. And then from this point on, we're going to click on App Protection Policies. Once you're in App Protection Policies, I want you to come up to Create Policy. And we have a choice of going through iOS, Android, or Windows. We're going to choose Android for this specific scenario. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're just going to say we need to create a name for our policy. So what we're going to do is we're going to call this, and we'll call it Teams Contractors. So what we want to do is we're saying, hey, we want to make sure our app is protected, Microsoft Teams, because we have some contractors coming in, but we want to make sure that they're not doing anything malicious to our data. Even though they're coming in the organization and they need to do some work, and we have to collaborate with them through Teams, we're letting them come in with their own devices. And with their own devices, that means it's unmanaged. So what we want to do is throw these people in a group, and then we want to do is eliminate the ability to cut, copy, or paste any of the information from Teams when they're utilizing our organization and take that and run with it somewhere else. So that's really what the basis of this is. So here we are. We're going to leave this description blank for now. And right here, if you notice, once you click on the platform from the previous choice, it's going to already automatically have that there. And one thing I want to point out is that when you are creating these policies, right now our policy is focused on Android. You want to create another policy focused on iOS, and the same thing for Windows, because there are certain functionalities that are germane to each platform that you'll have to be specific when you're doing your policies. It won't really go across the board. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to go to apps. And right here it says target to all apps on devices. You can choose yes, or we say no. We're going to click on no because we want to do specific devices, and we're going to say unmanaged for this one. So they have a bunch of other options here that we can utilize and we can choose. For this specific lab, we're just going to do unmanaged. And then next where it says target policy to, there's three options. So there's all apps, all Microsoft apps, and then there's core Microsoft apps. So all apps includes all Microsoft and partner apps that have integrated for Intune. Then the Microsoft apps includes all Microsoft apps that have integrated the Intune SDK. And then the core Microsoft apps includes apps like Edge, Excel, Office, OneDrive, OneNote, Outlook, PowerPoint, SharePoint, Teams, and Word. So what we're going to do is we're just going to leave that the way it is, and we're going to come down to public apps, and we're going to select public apps. So here we're going to type in Teams, and then once you get the option for Teams, we're going to click on it, and we're going to click Select. So we're not going to do anything for these custom apps selected. We're perfectly fine with Microsoft Teams. Then over here, we're going to have to go through our data protection. What do we allow and what do we deny? So right here, the first thing is backup org data to Android backup services. We can allow that, but for us, we're going to say no. We're going to block that. Then over here, it says send org data to other apps. So we can say, okay, we can send org data to all apps, none, or we could say policy manage apps. And if you notice, if I click on policy manage apps, this option that says save copies of org data, you have an option to say, okay, you know what, we have the contractors, but they're using Teams, but they're also using other applications. So what we can do is say, we can allow it, or we can say, okay, save copies to org data. You can block it, but then you can allow users to save copies to selected services. So you can say, all right, I'm only going to let them save the copies to certain services, and you can throw it within OneDrive, SharePoint, and so on and so forth. And this way it stays within your organization, but it travels from one app to another within your ecosystem. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to come back over here. Excuse me. And what I'll do is save copies, and I'll just click blocked. And I'm going to say over here, actually up here, excuse me. I'm going to click none. So send org data to other apps. I'm just going to choose none and make sure that that's set there. And as I continue through here, what we're going to do is receive data from other applications. We're going to say none. We're trying to make this as strict as possible. And then restrict, cut, copy, and paste between other apps. This is exactly what I was referring to earlier in the video. This is the functions that we want to stop because we don't want anybody pulling our information. So policy manage apps with paste in. So what this is saying, you can do a paste in from policy managed apps, and that's other applications within our organization. But for our contractors, they're really just using Microsoft Teams. So what we're going to do is we're just going to click blocked because there's no need for that. Over here, they have a cut and copy character limit for any app. Right now it's on 0, but remember it's on block, so we don't have to worry about that. And then some of the other options we're just going to go through. We don't really need to worry about anything else. Everything else looks pretty good for our setup. So okay, so let me close this out, and then what I'll do is I'll click on next. So over here, access requirements. So what this is saying is configure the PIN and credential requirements that users must need to access apps in a work context. So you say PIN required, yes. PIN type, you could do numeric or passcode. We're going to stay with numeric. Simple PIN, we can allow. And then we have an option of changing from the minimum length of that PIN. So it gives us 4, 6, up to 16. We'll leave it on 4. And then biometrics, instead of PIN for access, we could click allow and then we click require. So everything else is fine here. So we're just going to continue and go on to next. All right, so let me come back, zoom out a little bit. And now we're in the conditional launch section. So for the conditional launch section, we have this app condition section, which we start off with. And this is basically just letting you know exactly what kind of conditions you want the app to operate. So right here, we can say max PIN attempts 5. And then after that, the action is reset PIN. And then there's this offline grace period. You have some more options you can add to it where you can say minimum app version and then disable account if you want to. We'll leave it the way it's set up. And then over here, you have device conditions. And then with the device conditions, this is saying, okay, you know what? We can say if it's a jailbroken device, we can block access or we can wipe the device. Over here, we have a couple of more settings where we can have minimum OS version. So let's just say there's someone who hasn't upgraded their phone for a certain period of time. We're like, okay, we don't want phone version 8 no more. That from that point on, you cannot utilize and get into our Microsoft Teams. And one of the reasons why you want to do something like that is because of security reasons. And then you may have a Mac OS version as well if there is a new version of the Android operating system, or if this is what you're doing for iOS. You might say, hey, you know, the operating system hasn't been out that long. There may be some security flaws. It's really depending on your organization and how you work with compliance. So you have all these options here that you can choose from. And it really depends on your organization, and you could tailor it towards your needs. So we're going to leave it the way it is, and we're just going to click on next. And then under assignments, this is where we're going to say, okay, you know what? We're going to have this app protection policy, but we need to scope it out to a specific group of individuals. Now, one thing I will tell you to do is always best to create a group, and then from that group, what you'll do is throw all the users in because it just makes management much easier. So if I click on add groups, and then over here, add groups, I'm going to look for my contractors group. And there we have it, contractors. And I'm just going to click on select. And then now this is going to be applied to our contractors group. Now a group is just created. It's 0 devices and 0 users. It's empty, but you get the point of it. And then you have your excluded group. So let's just say if you added all users here and then you added excluded groups, you can have certain people in those groups get excluded from it. If you want to put it through a whole organization, but then you want to exclude it for certain people, you can go ahead and do that as well. So finally, we're going to click on next, and then we have this whole review and create where it just gives us a summary of what we have chosen and our options, and then we're going to click on create. And that's it. That is our protection policy that's geared towards our contractors within our organization. So I hope that the information I provided to you in this video was beneficial and helped you out. I hope it's exactly what you were looking for. If you haven't done so already, please smash that like and subscribe button. If there are any questions that you have, please leave it in the comment section. I'm always open to questions and happy to respond to them. Here at Cloud Scholars, my goal is to get you from scholar to consultant and from consultant to expert. Thank you, and I'll see you next time.